Hello, my name is Dante Corona, and this is my Moraine Read project, and I will be discussing today The Sun Does Shine, a memoir by Anthony Ray Hinton. Now, in the 1980s, Hinton was wrongly committed of murder, and he was sentenced to death row. He was faced with a lot of institutional racism, and he was never able to explain his alibi, which he did have. So he was sentenced, and he had a lot of people who were in his life. Well, not actually a lot, just his mother and his friend, and his friend's mother. His mother died in 2002, and that was extremely traumatic. Hinton became suicidal. And at this point in the book, it just seemed like he was never going to be able to overcome all these negatives. And I think that's what one of the biggest themes in this book is just overcoming the negative and looking at the positive outlook. Now, Hinton eventually was released, and it wasn't until he actually got a real lawyer who actually wanted the best for him. His name was Bryan Stevenson. Once Stevenson came into the picture, he was able to expose to the media what was going on with this case, and he eventually got him released. While he was in prison, or while he was on death row, Hinton eventually started to look at his inmates and started to create relationships. One especially with the man named Henry, who he later found out to be a ex-KKK member who killed and lynched the black man. Hinton, I would assume that he would not want anything to do with this man for committing a violent act on one of his people. But, a recurring theme in this book is just overcoming those negatives. And eventually, Henry and Hinton actually become friends all the way until Henry gets executed. Ray saw about 54 men get executed, walk past his door. And in the beginning, it was all about the negatives about prison, all of the terrible things about death row, and it was just terrible to read these things. But as the book progresses, you start to see him start to look at the positives of the situation. He created a book club after he started to create these relationships with his inmates. And it took a lot out of him, the whole experience. But as he was starting to make these relationships, Hinton was able to make a book club. He convinced the warden, made a book club in prison. Now, the members of that book club were dwindling, but because, they were getting executed. But it just serves the theme of the book that, he's starting to create new things and positive things out of a negative. And for me, this book was so impactful for me because I've had family members who've been in jail, and it leaves a void in your life, and I could feel it throughout the entire book. It resonated a lot with me when Hinton got to go home, because it was the beginning of his new life. And with that new life, he has dedicated it to fighting the death penalty. Not only that, public speaking and, trying to get people to see the positives in life, the outlooks. In pictures, you see him smiling now. He's a very, very good person now. And he didn't let everything just destroy him. He really dug deep and found the positive energy. And I think that's what this book is about, just overcoming all of those things. It really left a impact on me, made me feel, like my thoughts are understood and that other people have gone through, similar things. And it's a great book, and I would recommend this book to anybody. It's, just fantastic read, action-packed. So that is my review on The Sun Does Shine and my Moraine Reads project, and thank you for listening.